18 holes behind us and a heck of a week ahead. The numbers and the names equally outstanding at the 87th playing of the Masters. 65 the pace car, driven by the likes of Hovland, Rahm, and Koepka. Plenty of golf to be played, but those on page 2 and beyond, chasing both leaders and history. Over the last 17 years, only twice has a player come from outside the top 10 after round 1 and donned the green jacket. Both were named Tiger Woods. It is our privilege to take you out to Augusta National, where Kyle Porter and Doug Bell find themselves in the midst of it all. Gentlemen, all-time week coming into form if Mother Nature cooperates to some extent. We'll get there in a moment, but let's start at the top of that leaderboard. Hovland, Rahm, Koepka, all end at the desired destination, but they arrive there in vastly different ways, I think it can be said. KP, which of that grouping wowed you most here over the first 18 holes?
Well, it really was an extraordinary first round. You don't see a leaderboard like this early on in major championships, and certainly not usually at the Masters. You know, it's almost all stars and superstars here at the top. The guy for me, Joe, was Brooks Koepka. You know, he came into this week with question marks, I think is fair. You know, he wins Live Orlando last week, but what does that mean? It's hard to provide context for something like that we're not totally sure what it means yet. And so I asked him afterwards, Joe, you know, everybody watched the Full Swing, the Netflix documentary, where he was kind of, I mean, it was a little existential, just the way he sort of was like acting about Scottie Scheffler winning and about his 75 performance last year. I said, what changed year over year? You know, what's different from last year to this year? And he said, I'm just healthy. He said, that's it. He said, there's a lot of stuff that you didn't see in that Netflix documentary. And so I was like, okay, what didn't we see, Brooks? Tell me about it. And he was just alluding to the fact that he is seemingly healthier this time this year, at least more so than he was this time last year. Now, Koepka said he's been healthy. He said he's been not healthy a lot of times over the course of his career. I think we've seen that change quite a bit, kind of flip-flop back and forth. So I think it remains to be seen whether he can keep this up. His record, his scoring at Augusta National over the course of his career, it's good, but it's not great. This is, I think, only the second time he's been better than 69. So I'm very curious, Joe, to see, you know, can this continue throughout the week with a bunch of other horses either tied with him or just behind him?
Yeah, I tell you, Kyle and Joe, I'm impressed by Jon Rahm. Here's a guy who opens today with a double bogey, a 4-putt. When was the last time Jon Rahm had a 4-putt? And then over the next 17 holes, he goes 9 under par to kind of reestablish himself as the guy, right? Because it's been a 7-week lull since he was so impressive at the Genesis, winning at Riviera. But today he dominated a golf course that was there for the taking. No wind. There's never rough. Hole locations were very gettable today, and Jon Rahm absolutely dominated Augusta National. So I'm looking forward to what the next few days holds for the big Spaniard. You know, during the practice round, guys, I walked with them playing with Jose Maria Olazabal and Sergio Garcia. Of course, those two gentlemen have won green jackets, and the late Seve Ballesteros won 3. Rahm's trying to join that foursome, and I think today is what he had to do. Maybe that first hole was a wake-up call, guys, like a cold shower, because after hole number 1, he was dominant, Jon Rahm.
We likened it to some pregame smelling salts. Rahm was out there and getting it beyond that first hole. Of those guys sitting at 65, none have a green jacket. 2 are major champions prior. One projects himself as the dude, the other plays like the dude, and then there's the mild-mannered Viktor Hovland, who deserves a word here as well. I guess my question here, Doug, would be following this first round 65, do you see Hovland ready for the moment? Does he have the mind and the stomach, let's say? We know he has the game, but does he have those other 2 intangibles for what's to come the rest of the week?
Well, Joe, we shall see, because today was one of those days where he missed only 2 fairways, missed only 2 greens, and he got up and down from some tough spots, and that's kind of been his bugaboo, right? The short game. I know he's been working on it, but today was a near flawless performance for Viktor Hovland, and that's either going to set him in a good spot for the rest of the week, or maybe today was the pinnacle and it's downhill after that. I will say this, though, playing with Tiger and Xander, but that Tiger gallery, I thought Viktor handled it with aplomb. I mean, he seemingly enjoyed himself out there.
Yeah, he did. I've always thought his bugaboo, Doug, was actually his wardrobe. It has been a question mark over the course of his career, and definitely today. Joe, I talked to somebody who actually watched him warm up with his short game today and said, I don't know, man. He kind of looked like one of us with the wedges out there. So I think actually going out and shooting 65 was, I don't know if it's a surprise, because you can ball strike your way around this place and not necessarily need to be creative with your short game if you're not in some difficult positions. The problem that I see, Joe, you're going to find yourself in some difficult positions over the next 54 holes. Does the short game hold up under pressure in the heat of the moment at Augusta National with the Masters on the line? I think that's a big question mark. But I will say his experience at the Open Championship last year, Doug, playing in that final pairing with Rory, I don't think that's nothing. I think that's a valuable thing to sort of take into the rest of this week. And the more you can kind of feel what that feels like to be where the air gets a little bit thinner, where it's a little bit harder to breathe, I think the better for these guys trying to chase down a major championship.
Reports from the grounds that if you get close enough to that polo, you can actually smell the azaleas. Guys, here, the rub for those three in the lead. Since 1981, just 4 first-round leaders or co-leaders have gone on to win. We'll see how it all plays out. You mentioned the horses, and Doug, you mentioned Tiger. So let's go there next. The 5-time champion didn't comport himself well here. 2 over 74, struggled on approach, most notably. Red numbers are going to be required tomorrow to see the weekend cut, tentatively shaping up around 1 over. Doug, he said the leg did not feel good. The back did not appear to give him any more ailment than we've seen in recent appearances. Where did you see the issues here on Thursday for Tiger, Doug?
Well, Joe, he also said he was disappointed he didn't go low because he was watching that scoreboard and he saw all the low scores. And so in that regard, he was disappointed. But physically, Joe, when you see him in person, this is a broken down athlete. I mean, he struggled getting from the practice area to the clubhouse to the first tee. And then as he limped down that first fairway, it's almost like, oh my gosh. And then of course he had those bogeys at 3, 5, and 7. And it appeared it was going to be a very ugly day. He grinded it out like he always does, but grabbed his back at number 11, hit an awkward shot out of the bunker and kind of jostled a little bit and limped out of the bunker there at 18. So I think he's going to have to do a lot of rehab tonight, and his team is going to have to kind of put him back together, however they do it, with tape or whatever, just to see if he can go out and play tomorrow. I still think he's going to make the cut, but he is going to limp home. There's no doubt about it.
Duct tape and gum and baling wire holding the leg together. I followed Tiger for a while on Thursday, Joe, and it was actually the part of his round that was the best. It was 15-16. He makes a long putt for 4 on 15, hits a great shot into 16 for 2. I thought early on it was actually his putting that let him down. Front 9, 3 bogeys, some 3 putts in there. And now some of that's putting, some of it's putting yourself in the wrong spot. At a place like Augusta National, it's very difficult. You can hit a green and be absolutely just in a horrific spot. So I think there was some approach play issues as well. But, I think he's hitting the ball about like we thought. I think we thought he'd be kind of around that cut line like he was last year. I think that's just sort of who he is and what he is at this stage of his career. So hopefully he can make it to the weekend and put together another 4 rounds at Augusta National.
Yeah, we talk about it in the lead-up, his presence more than we could even ask for, but then we see him in the moment, and we always seem to want more. Guys, we've been radar watching what feels like for the last 2 weeks now, and it looks like it could be a start-and-stop affair from here on in. KP, if it does get soft out there and we do get the elements in the days to come, does that bring more names into the equation, or could Sunday's leaderboard look like the one we're looking at right now?
I think it probably brings a few more names in.
Yeah.
You always talk about when it's fast and firm, it's the best ball strikers. And I think when it gets softer, you might get, what Jon Rahm has referred to in the past as a putting contest. So that could happen. You could see some guys from outside that top 10. You reference that stat. Nobody outside the top 10 after the first round has won the Masters since 2005, other than Tiger Woods, who did it in 2005 and 2019. So it's just a rarity for anybody to come from outside that top 10. The bigger issue, Joe, is going to be the guys that are inside the top 10. How does somebody who's T17 or T30 right now jump into that group? Because you've got Rahm, you've got Koepka, you've got Hovland, you've got Scotty Scheffler, who shot 68 on Thursday. It was about as easy as 68 as you can imagine. I think he was second in the field in strokes gained tee to green, behind only Jon Rahm. And Scheffler he puts easy 68s together, which is how you win major championships. It's certainly not as easy as he makes it look. But everybody outside that top 10, whatever happens with the weather, they've got more of a Scotty Scheffler problem than they have a weather problem.
Well, those top 3 guys have the early-late rotation there, and the weather's supposed to come in late on Friday, so we shall see. Again, I don't think it's going to rain hard enough to mess things up for these guys, and I still see Rahm and Koepka and even Viktor Hovland, unless he gets crazy with his irons and starts putting it in awkward spots like Kyle was talking about. I still see those guys playing well and being there near the top heading into the weekend, even with weather kind of iffy.
Yeah, Koepka does have the earliest of the trio at the top of the leaderboard when we're talking about Friday tee times. It's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch it play out. Let's just hope we get to watch it play out. Fellas, great work as always. Enjoy the time there at Augusta. And don't forget, for all the coverage, the iconic green jacket handed out once again. You can watch it all come to pass. Third and fourth round coverage of the Masters on CBS and streaming live on Paramount Plus. Coverage Saturday beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by final round coverage on Sunday, 2 Eastern time. We'll have post-round reaction right here on CBS Sports HQ. And there is but only one place to be for all of your tour needs. That's with our team on the First Cut podcast, round by round, week by week. Our team led by Kyle Porter, Rick Gaiman, bringing you all of the latest on the tour you love. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the First Cut podcast.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.